What's up, everybody? All right, this time we're live for real. You know, the thing about going live is sometimes there's technical difficulties, and when you got all this advanced technology in here, there's always room for margin for error. Anyway, thank you guys for being patient with us.
Well, thank you for letting us know, because we'd still be talking
and going.
Yeah, because Mike can rant.
Right. So if
we had to pump the brakes.
If y'all are out there watching, let us know you're here live. Or if you're watching replay, let us know that. Just drop in the comments and show us some love. Anyway, we're going to get right back into this thing, starting from the top. And Tom, you got this going. We're talking about the illegal immigration, right?
But we're dragging in our friend's article at the Christian Post. Chris Chu, you do a great job out there. We're starting to do we're starting
together,
doing some collab things with the Christian Post. But they got an article out there that says critical threat. Record share of Americans are raising concerns about mass
and they should be
illegal immigration. Well, you know, they should be, especially after the just this recent thing with Lincoln Riley.
Yeah. But this article goes on to say, and I think it's important to note, because a lot of people are going to try to say, well, first of all, it's a Gallup poll, right? Hey, what's up, Maria? Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Or Mario. Sorry, is that Mario or Maria? My eyes aren't great, so forgive me. Anyway, thanks for being here. But the point here is majority of Americans, according to this Gallup poll, are saying that the majority of Americans are against illegal immigration, and to say 80% of it, 55% considered a critical threat, but there's another 31% that are considering an important threat. So at least the majority of people are considering it important. Of course, this is divided largely along party lines, because only 30% of Democrats actually care about this. Unfortunately, sadly, you know, I hate to be so partisan about that, but it's a case, right?
They're wanting the new voters. They're losing voters, so they want to bring in illegals.
They're importing voters and fabricating voters too. But we'll get to that in a minute.
They're importing criminals too,
sadly, and unfortunately, and that's where we're going with this.
And if that is you out there and you're okay with that, shame on you.
Well, I made this earlier on our muted live stream, but I'll make this point again. When Tom says shame on you, he's not saying shame on you if you're for the crime. Of course you're not. No, who is? However, the fact that we're importing criminals, and we a lot of times knowingly are importing criminals, and we're not doing anything about it. Of course, we have a heart for all people.
Well, my son-in-law's family came over legally. Now, that is the way you're supposed to do it. That's the way our country was set up. And Trump had the border locked down. I don't care what you say. If you say it doesn't, you said it's Republicans stalling it. That's a bunch of malarkey. Is that
the truth is they're trying to say this with so the big debate in Congress has been for the past month or 3 months or whatever. The Republicans don't want this border bill. There's a big difference between the two border bills. Republicans are presenting a border bill saying, hey, we're going to actually police the border. We're going to enforce the laws. We're going to stop the inflow. We're going to stop the inflow of drugs. We're going to stop the inflow of crime, rapes, murders, all this other stuff. And the Democrats are saying, hey, we put out a border bill. Yeah, you know what their border bill says? If you're not in the know and you're not paying attention, what their border bill says is, hey, we're going to make it more efficient to get more people in faster. So when Republicans are against that, yeah, absolutely, they're against it, because they don't want more crime and drugs and sex trafficking, human trafficking, everything else being brought into this country. Of course, they're against that.
So Mike had another cup of coffee and espresso beans. So let's go ahead and let's bring in another opinion.
Well, you said that wouldn't kick in, Tom. So
I don't know if it has or not. But hey, let's go ahead and bring up another opinion, because these are some of the experts that are out there.
Illegal immigrant charged with the murder of a 22-year-old Georgia nursing student, Laken Riley, is the Venezuelan who reportedly crossed illegally into El Paso back in 2022 and was released into the U.S. on parole. Here to discuss retired acting ICE Director Ron Vitiello, along with Dan Rosenberg, who knows about stories like this all too well. His son was killed by an illegal immigrant. They both join us now.
And more people are going to experience
Dan, I'd love to start with you. Yeah. I know you've spoken about this in the past. Your son was killed in a collision with an illegal immigrant. When you arrive at a moment like this, Dan, how does the fact that the perpetrator of a crime shouldn't have been in the country to begin with impact your grief?
Well, it makes it completely a preventable crime. There's always going to be traffic collisions, crimes that are committed, but these are committed by people who have no business being here. Had he not been here, and there was also opportunities to deport him, my son would be alive, and tens of thousands of other people would be too, and certainly, Lake and Riley wouldn't be a news story today.
Yeah.
I think that's put very well, a preventable crime. We also have domestic crime. It's hard to wrap our minds around the fact that we import crime to add to our troubles. In your situation, Don,
a lot of times
your grief.
Ron,
I'm going to put up the charges now for this Venezuelan illegal immigrant that that is allegedly killed Lake and Riley in Georgia. You can see him on your screen. It's malice murder, felony murder, all the way down to kidnapping, concealing the death of another. Ron, what I'd love to ask you is probably something that many people are asking themselves at home. So we now know how many times that Jose Ibarra came into contact with the system. That first time he comes into the system, and I haven't heard about his criminal background in Venezuela. How does Border Patrol check if what they have encountered is someone, you'll never know about their propensity for crime, but you will know about their history of crime?
Let me start by giving my condolences to the Riley family and Dan as well. These are preventable crimes, to the point. What happens in the system is when Border Patrol encounters people like this from wherever they are, they do the best they can, right? Everybody's fingerprinted into the system. That system is checked against the holdings that are in the United States. And that's important. Those are the holdings that the FBI and the databases that the states produce for people who have been previously arrested. And so do we share stuff with Venezuela? Yeah, through Interpol and other mechanisms. But it's not like checking with the local sheriff whether this person has been arrested before or whether the FBI has their fingerprints in a database somewhere in the United States. So we're really dependent on agent observation about, like gang tattoos, other, attributes that the person might have. We may know that they're a criminal. We may know from a different source like intelligence that they're criminal. But we're really dependent on the holdings of the United States government. And in the case of this gangster or this individual from Venezuela, we knew that they were from Venezuela. They may or may not have had documents. We don't even really know that based on the testimony that they give to agents in the field. And so this is the idea
they're here illegally
of all the risks that we face when you have an out of control, chaotic border. These burdens come front and center to the Riley family, to Dan's family, and to families all across the world. Again, a preventable crime. And we know that in the case of Venezuela, we let them sell oil on the international market without having a repatriation agreement during the most critical time when there were more people coming illegally from Venezuela than any other place in the world along the southwest border.
Well, as long as we cripple our own.
Real quick as a follow-up, Ron, President Trump mentioned prisons, for example, in place like the Congo being emptied. There's been suspicions that Maduro in Venezuela is emptying his prisons. From your experience, I know that we have the Cuban Mariel boat lift when Castro emptied the prisons in Cuba. Is that something that you experienced in border enforcement? Men who had clearly been spending time in prison being essentially imported to the United States?
Yes, it's a constant threat inside the flow of when you have a chaotic border like this. That threat rises not just at the border with the agents and the communities, but all across the country, because we know these people are sneaking in because they couldn't come in otherwise.
I love that. Sneaking. You could go there, Gabe.
And last question to you, Don, and I'll apologize. I said Dan at the beginning. Ron followed my lead. But your name is Don, not Dan.
And tell the plan of the left that they need new voters, and they're massively letting them in because the people here in America that are citizens realize their plans don't work.
Right. And I want to make a point, Tom, because first of all, I want to make it very clear. Tom and I, 511 Media Group, and all of those that we support and that support us, very strongly care about the underprivileged. I mean, that's why we support and mutual support with Covenant Coffee, the things they're doing to help the underserved communities. Loving Nashville with Jeb.
Yeah. Well, and if it wasn't for an ability for people to migrate into America, I wouldn't have a phenomenal son-in-law like Danny Jimenez.
Right.
They came in and they were, legally entered. And so I'm for that. I'm for that. But we've got to be able to stop this because we know it's not being done for the right reasons to let people in for a better opportunity. There again, most of these people are military age young men. Where are the families that they keep telling us about when they pan these lengthy lines of people? It's just one young man after another young man after another young man. And then if you follow this whole thing back, Mike, they got things in Mexico called the rape tree, where these coyotes that are bringing these people across are just terrible human beings. They're taking advantage of people. So there again, let's just go through. We've got a and this is something too. We got the police that are the ICE, Immigration Control Authority. So they're not even allowed to have interaction with the majority of these people because they will take care of it. So what they do is they say, we'll just go around this. So let's go down because this one here is kind of an interesting one because we live in California and hundreds of migrants were released at a bus stop after San Diego runs out of aid money. This was Tuesday, February 27th. This was just this week. Mm-hmm. So you've got the Customs and Border Patrol. They dropped off hundreds of migrants at a bus stop in San Diego after the county ran out of money. Well, there again, we live in a very corrupt state that's run by a one-party government. And we all know if you're out there and you want to vote for Newsom as a president, you probably need to check yourself on that because just look at California.
They need an IQ test if they want to vote for Newsom.
All you have to do is look at California, travel to LA like you were down in Orange County yesterday. Yeah. My wife was down there. It's a disaster with homelessness. It's a disaster. Yeah. So you just say what you can. San Francisco, businesses are leaving in drove because they have crime on the street that's rampant. But here, they ran out of money. Newsom can't even run California. Don't expect him to run the United States. And so they sent these people off into the who knows where they're at. But all they were doing was they were charging their phones and using the bathroom and eating a meal. But now they're just saying, hey, we can't do that. So, Newsom can't balance the budget. So why would we even trust him with anything, really? So here we got 3 young women that have been allegedly killed, and I think they've proven it several times. And so we have Kayla Hamilton, we have Elizabeth Medina, and Laken Riley. 3 young women that should be alive today, but since they had an encounter with illegal immigrants, mm-hmm. They're no longer with us. Their families are grieving for them, and you can look these people up. And we had one of them that was not involved. She got killed by MS-13 gang. You have another one that was a cheerleader, and she was stalked. And then you have Lincoln Riley, and I guess this was a terrible crime because the way that they found her body. So mm-hmm. Here we have these criminals and murderers that are, out there and, hey, they're among us.
Yeah.
And they want to take our guns from people who want to protect themselves, which we have the right to the Second Amendment. And I love, because we're going to get up our shows with Sheriff of Tulare County, Mike Boudreau. And I love what he has to say. So
yeah, I want to say what's up to David Sedman. Thanks for watching, brother.
Yeah, David,
glad you can hear us.
Yeah, thank you for letting us know. And Mario again. So let's go into the next subject, because this is probably one of the reasons they're letting the migrants in. We got another audio clip from the Christian Post talking about election fraud.
You're listening to the Christian Post Daily Podcast. Today is Friday, February 23rd. A conservative think tank, the Heartland Institute, in partnership with Rasmussen Reports, has claimed that over a quarter of Americans performed ballot fraud during the 2020 presidential election. The study focuses on alleged instances of absentee ballot misconduct, citing 21% of mail-in voters admitting to questionable actions. However, skepticism over the study's methodology has been raised by multiple observers. with David Thornton of the Racket News criticizing its broad assumptions of what constitutes fraud. Moreover, Jack McFerrin, director of Heartland's Socialism Research Center, commented on the surprising study results while dismissing results of state-sponsored investigations which hadn't revealed such widespread fraud due to their focus on voting machines and official misconduct. Despite these claims, past investigations by institutes and former Trump administration members contrarily found no evidence of widespread fraud that could have swayed the 2020 election.
Well, Mike, I think something happened last week in South Carolina.
Yeah.
That might lend. So what happened is we had a big cell phone outage, and they told us about it.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And they don't know why it is, but I think that's maybe not true either. We had a lot of Chinese espionage, and
Tom, I guarantee you they know.
Oh yeah, they just don't let us know. They think we're
Right.
stupid. But we got a little thing, and I think this is important for you to see, because that clip just said that there is voting machines that are out there, and they've told us. Let's just set this up. They've told us that they're not hooked up to the internet. So let's just listen to this.
To put their ballot through. They said that they put them in this bin per se, but didn't have much more information. Now, that's obviously interesting.
Baby. Don't
because,
ho. Michelle, hey, yo. Don't bury the lead. The machines are not supposed to be hooked up to the internet.
They're not.
What did they tell you?
Exactly.
Repeat what they told you. What'd they say?
They said, the poll worker said that the internet is not working, and therefore they had to take the ballots and put them in a separate bin. Voters were so confused what was going on. They said that because the internet's not working, the scanners weren't going to work. And yep, I was going to say, is anyone putting this together right now?
We are.
So this happened in Richland
I think
County.
I'm becoming a machine guy. Michelle, you're going to be on Real America's Voice all day down there in Columbia. How do people get to you? Social media. I know you're putting up stuff nonstop. Where do they get?
Part at the end that I think would. Well,
You want to go ahead? Go back in.
Can you bring it back up, Gabe?
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all Michelle Backus _ also Getter and Truth Social as well. Yeah, we're going to be keeping an eye on everything that's happening on the ground here as well. And I'll tell you what, I'm also seeing some Democrats that have come out today voting for Nikki Haley. I've seen a lot of that so far. So make sure to stay tuned. I'll keep y'all updated on that.
That is very interesting, Mike.
Yeah.
That hey, they got some people leaving the traditional blue party, right?
Yeah.
I think this is very interesting. But there again,
Well, I think there's a lot of people that.
So we've been told that there's no shenanigans going on with the machines, and now all of a sudden we have voter confusion. Now that shouldn't happen.
Well, Tom,
voters should not be confused at the polls.
I got a question for you, as a couple of old IT guys, right? What do you think's the easiest way to manipulate votes?
Data. I mean,
if they're hooked up to a computer and hooked up to some central server somewhere, they're not hooked up to the internet, except for they can't work if they aren't.
Yeah.
I think, it's like saying, hey, this live stream isn't hooked up to the internet. It just has to be connected to the internet for it to work, but it doesn't connect to the internet. It can't be both.
It's like the chicken or the egg. So there you make up your own mind. But I think this is like something that people, and you would hope that people would bring a little more attention to this, but we know the mainstream news media is not going to do it because it doesn't fit the narrative. So you make up your own mind. So this week, this is kind of important to me. The Christian Post reported that the IRS is urged. Now, the people that are urging them to strip the mega church of their tax exemption is the opposite side of what he's saying. So basically, Pastor Jack Hibbs endorsed Steve Garvey, an amazing LA Dodger, just a great guy, but he's running for the Republicans. And so Pastor Jack Hibbs, who has a large church in Chino Valley, and we're kind of in the same arena he is. He backed him. He's a Calvary Chapel guy. And so the people want to take away his nonprofit number. But don't you think this should cut both ways, Mike?
Yeah, it absolutely should. But I also, so first of all, I disagree with the premise in the first place. You shouldn't be taking away, this is all agenda driven, right? But a pastor should be allowed to, say what they think about this.
Well, Mike, you and I believe this wholeheartedly.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's why we support Turning Point Faith.
Yes.
You know, so our relationship with those guys, that's their entire platform.
I will go toe to toe with any pastor out there, and you could drop it in the comment, whatever you want to say. If you can't stand on the fact that God created Adam, the animals, he created Eve, because he didn't see a partner for Adam. Now I'm going to get us in trouble. He was creating the institution of man and woman in a bond, and we'll call it marriage. And that creates one flesh. And then guess what else you create after you create man and woman who are made to go together? You create offspring. So then you go a little further with the creation story, and then you see the sin nature come out in Adam and Eve. So then you have to have consequences. We see that in the Garden of Eden. We see the fact that, you know, the Satan got to crawl in his belly. Woman had to, you know, basically she was desire her husband, yet resist his rule. Childbirth was going to hurt. I don't know how it was going to do that before, but I don't know. And man will toil the earth. So that's a consequence for this sin. And then as God moved on, we saw other things. So then God came into morality, law and order, right, Mike? I mean, I'm just walking the case down. And then we had a society that had to have the 10 commandments because they couldn't they couldn't have order without that. And then we want to just walk completely away from that in many ways, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're sitting in a lawless society with morality is just like pushed aside, law and orders pushed aside.
I think there, you know, I was looking at something. I think it was either this morning or last night. People were talking about, you know, that you know, the Constitution doesn't say God in it, which you know, I think that's true, but that you know, the United States wasn't founded as a Christian nation. Now, it was not founded as a theocracy, 100%. That's 100% true. However, it was founded by Christian founders, and they did intentionally weave bits of the Bible and bits of you know, God into the creation of this country. And you know, one of the biggest things, and this came up the other day. I don't remember if we talked about this or if I shared this with you, Tom. But they were talking about. I think this was something I talked about with David again. But there's conversation going on, and it's out in the public. It's not like, you know, behind closed doors, like, you know, that as Christians, we believe that our rights came from God above, right? That we are supernaturally granted those rights, and that the government that exists to protect those rights, and only to protect those rights. The large swath of the liberals and or Democrats believe that those rights are only granted by the government. Well, that's a bunch of malarkey, because where did the government even damn come from? Because the people are the ones that elected the officials and created the government. So either we are granting ourselves those rights, or our creator is granting those rights, but the government doesn't exist without us anyway. So the government isn't granting us rights. All their sole job is to protect those rights.
I think, Mike, it's turned around. The government exists because of the people.
100%. And their job is to work for the people, not to enslave the people and get the people to work for them and think they're subjugated to the government.
And what's happening now? I mean, you know, and there again, if you're out there, you just go out and read the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, and our friend Mike Boudreau, the Tulare County Sheriff, who's running for CB20, the congressional seat that Kevin McCarthy had, and Vince Fong. All of them are friends of our show. Are going for. Mike Boudreau, who is a sheriff of Tulare County, will tell you that the Second Amendment is there to grant freedom to the people to possess firearms for a protection against a tyrannical government. And what do we look like we have nowadays? They're coming against everything that, you know, I think is something that you just talked about, given to us as freedoms. And America is one of those countries that hopefully would try to enforce that, but they also want to subjugate us with those same things. I mean, you know, Newsom, for some reason, just doesn't like guns, but he has people around him who protect him with guns. But he's just been battling gun control ever since he's been in office. Now he wants to tax gun ownership every year, and he wants to get a list. And that's really what they want to do, is they want to know which people own guns. And so there again, as our friend Mike Boudreau will tell you, is that the Constitution, the Second Amendment, is there to allow us and fight for our freedom. So now we ran it on that one because we got off our track. So Jack Hibbs endorsed Steve Garvey, and Steve is running for a spot that was vacated. And I know what's his name? Oh gosh, I forgot the guy's name that's also running. But Jack Hibbs was able to endorse Steve Garvey from his pulpit, and now they want to take away his nonprofit number. And this is where I think if you need to go out there and do your research, when it says separation of church and state, that was to protect the church, not the state.
Well, they want to take away the tax exemption.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying. So we're just we're going to say, hey, you can't speak about politics from the pulpit because we give you the right to have a tax exemption.
Well, that's only true if you're on the wrong side of the politics.
Because there was an incident, and Christian Post reported on this back in November 1st, 2022. There was a pastor named Jamal Bryant, and he slammed Herschel Walker, who was a phenomenal football player, strong believer, GOP candidate. And when he started to take a slight lead in the Georgia Senate race, I guess Pastor Bryant came out against him. So where was the outrage then? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like he only comes out against it because Herschel was making a, race out of it. And so if it's good for the goose, it's going to be good for the gander.
Well,
so
let's be real about this, Tom.
Yeah, let's don't let one okay with it and then the other not.
Jack Hibbs is in California. The other one's in Georgia. Now Georgia as a state is a red state, but Atlanta as a city is a blue city.
Yeah.
In California, the majority of it's blue, except for you have places like Bakersfield that are red.
Kern County.
And Tulare County would be red, and
Orange County,
large part of the Central Valley. Orange County is turning more purple, but San Diego is obviously huge military bases. But the thing I think people don't always understand, and more people are coming to understand this, the country, the large city centers are very liberal, all of them, all across, regardless of what state you're talking about. But it's outside of those city centers, even in California, even in New York. People are much more conservative. So you go to a place like California where Jack Hibbs is talking about politicians and they want to take away his tax exemption. But then you go to a place like Georgia and you got in a liberal city, in a red state, conservative state, liberal city, Jamal Bryant, for slamming Herschel Walker, and they do nothing about it.
So I guess, a lot of people have been questioning Joe Biden's cognitive abilities. And so we even
I think we have for a long time.
Yeah. We have Howard Dean talking about how Biden could beat the daylights out of Trump in push-up contest.
Well,
Howard Dean is a former Democratic national chair. And he was said on an interview this Tuesday that Biden could beat the daylights out of him.
I don't know that Trump is a necessarily the most fit person or ever has been. However, I think he's capable of at least getting around.
I would ask them both to undertake this challenge and give the money that it would generate per pay-per-view to charity.
I bet you could beat both of them, Tom.
but so we've got a clip of Biden and Trump side by side. They're both at the border in Texas, apparently. Just the other day, and I was going to show you, and just by the sometimes, Mike, and there again, you and I are both physically active, and you can look at somebody who just basically doing just normal things has a very good control of their body. So watch how these two walk and how they interact with people.
You guys be the judge.
You be the judge.
Beautiful day, but a very dangerous border. We're going to take care of it. Thank you.
The guy walking Joe Biden looks like I'm walking my grandpa. Trump's walking around like, hey, turning in circles. Joe's like, walk the straight line, Joe. Walk the straight line.
This guy looks like he's about to hold Joe's hand.
I know. You got two people in prison. President Trump's there. So you be the judge. This Trump is looked very active, and Joe Biden looks like a dawdling old man.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No. No.
I mean, there again, there are a lot of spry people that are his age, but he's not one of them.
Well, and Tom, let me be so clear about something else. We love older people. We have some friends that are older that we just saw this morning.
66.
Well,
I get that.
Phil Welch,
I am old,
right?
Yes.
But
met him this morning at our Bible study.
No insult against older people, but if someone can barely walk, should they be running a country? That's a high stress job.
And then
you would think it would be a high stress.
So
job,
Howard
least, right?
Dean thinks this guy is going to go to the ground and do push-ups, and I hope
he might not get back up.
That's funny. Maybe I've been too critical of him today. I do pray for him because the Bible.
You spent too much time with me. You're turning into an. I'm an a-hole, so
I'm turning into a cynic. So
yeah,
there again. Hey, we're ranting today, and we thank our friends at the Christian Post because we had some material to talk about today from their reporting. So thank you, Chris Chu, and all that you guys do over at the Christian Post, Daily Wire, Turning Point. Hey,
talk to y'all soon.
Yep.
Have a great day.